So I started in on it, and I did it pretty scientifically. Um, Learn how to meditate, learn how to transcend, and do some Kundalini and yogic stuff. Uh, and then I started adding the psychedelics. Now, at this point, this is spring, ninth grade, and one of my classmates had a plug on the best LSD there probably ever was, the Orange Sunshine. There's a whole documentary on the guy who did it, and he was all about like the spirituality of it all, but it was powerful and it was super clean. There was 300 mics in one hit. And so I started like three-way 300 mics. So I started like 20 mics, like 20, 20, 20. And I would do it at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And then my parents would go to bed, and I would meditate on the psychedelics, and 20 mics, 30, 40, 50, 100. And yeah, it got more and more profound. I'd spend all week at school, like designing these mandalas that I used to deconstruct, like defrag reality, and just have the whole go down and go through. And it was just my entire focus. And it was kind of like it was kind of the same experience, super powerful. But every time he would raise the dose, it would be like, it's like a microscope. It would just be like 10x, 20x, 500x, like just looking at reality. And then, so what they say psychedelics do on the physical end is our senses, our nervous system, with our senses go. Where are my regular glasses? I'll wear them next time. You can see my eyes. But our senses, we get the input from our nervous system, and it comes up. So right, and then the sensation goes up through your spine, up, but then there's another signal that goes back down and checks to see if the input's still there. And if the input's not there anymore, it goes up and it stops the channel, the input. It stops it, right? So what psychedelics do is it stops that thing, and it just keeps inputting. So sound, vibration, sensation, touch, taste, sight, everything's just coming in. And there is something metaphysical that happens if you let it, where if you detach and quiet out, that you can use that and literally break through dimensions. And then the dimensions get more and more intense, and like you're one with it all. There's no body. What you're seeing, and it's like an ocean. You're underwater, and the body's gone, the room's gone, and you're just sort of swimming in this, but you are this. Like, there's no separation. And the sensation, the more psychedelics you're doing, the more further out your nervous system is connecting with reality, right? Because it's all frequency, vibration, and so are we. And it's this physical experience that separates us from it, the meat suit. And the psychedelics and the whole meditation enable that to dissolve away. So the more you're doing, and I was getting up to 500, 600, and my peak was 1,200 mics, which would be like 20 hits of the stuff now, because things now are like 60, 70 mics. An average hit back then was 100, but these were 300. So, but I wasn't like, whatever, I was dialing it up. And, what did I learn? I learned that God exists, I learned that God exists, right? And I got the answer that I wanted, right? but it actually just gave me more questions. And I was kind of looking for the question, not the answer. And that sent me on a whole, to try to figure out what had happened to me, sent me on another. It took another 20 years to process it and suss it out, right? All right, so smoking pot, doing psychedelics, and smoking pot actually, I'm not against cannabis at all. And smoking pot actually probably helped me survive, because my home life was really intense. And I don't know, I was kind of happy, it was this whole situation. Whatever. I mean, I thought at this point, I thought I was going to be a monk, right? I thought I was going to either live in a cave in India or I told my mom all that, and she's like, well, why don't you be, because they're raised Catholic, which was just a social club, right? And she was like, why don't you be a Trappist monk? They meditate a lot and they make wine and stuff. And I was like, all right, well, that could work for me. But that's where I was at this point, as far as that's how into it I was and the kind of future I thought I was going to have, because I just wanted out, And I was starting to realize at this point, you can't get out with psychedelics. Like, because I always would come back down. I'd be high for like a month, but you'd come back down. And, all right, so now I'm like 10th grade. Now I go to my first Grateful Dead show, 1981. Garcia's Young, and it was on fire. And I wasn't tripping. Only show I wasn't, but I could see it clearly. I could see that the band and the people that were, doing the psychedelics, I could see that they were here. I could see it. But I was outside of it. And I was like, I need to be there. And I remember turning around looking up, and there was a dude in the top row in like a freaking loincloth with the Ram Dass Bhagwan beads. Like, and he's just meditating up there. And I was like, that's my guy. I was like, that guy knows what's up. Most of these people don't know what's up. Like, I assessed that pretty quick. I was like, these people, for the most part, are here to just do a ton of drugs. They're not really here to have this psychedelic experience. And I had already been sort of studying the Grateful Dead and their whole inception and all the metaphysical things that went along to it. And Robert Hunter, I mean, his LSD experiments with the CIA, and just check their words out. It's just esoteric Gnostic knowledge all throughout it. And most of the people there didn't get that. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a hippie, I thought. And that only lasted like 6 months. Because I remember I was like growing my hair shit, and I was like, I probably went to 100 shows, but just a few at that point. And I remember just looking around and being like, you know what? I'm never going to be as cool of a hippie as these hippies. And so forget it. And I just like pulled out all my old button downs and like preppy clothes and cut my hair, and just like, I was like the guy at the Dead show who was literally one of the highest ones there, but I was dressed like in a button down. It was kind of weird. I felt like that would be a good situation for me also, like after the show, to stay incognito, because I wasn't looking. It's pretty freaking scary to be that high on psychedelics and then be out in the world. But back then, most of the shows were in like parks and stuff, and you could camp right outside the venue. And I didn't go to shows that were like in the middle of New York or the middle of Philadelphia. I tried to go to shows like up in Hartford or New Hampshire or Virginia, where there would be camping right there. But anyhow, so I'm doing the Grateful Dead thing, and I'm the kid at high school, a really small school, and I was like, the kid who turned me onto it, he left. And now I'm the guy like turning everyone onto it. And the teachers, like, they dialed in on me and they were like, this guy's starting like this Grateful Dead movement. But I thought that was always part of it. Part of that small school East Coast thing is that you were into the Grateful Dead, but because most were. But they didn't want me pushing like these Eastern philosophies, disruptive information. And they sort of plotted to kick me out of school. And this was a big turning point for me. I'm going to wrap it up, part 1. But this was kind of a big point. So they pulled me in and, they never caught me. I managed to never get caught my entire life. Grace of God. I don't know what. Real quick on the psychedelics and the meditating and like, that was the books on channeling, and I was like begging to be possessed, begging. Like, okay, I'm on 10 hits, I'm on 1,000 mics, and I am open. Come into me. I'm ready to do automatic writing. I'm ready, I'm like, come into me. And nothing ever like that happened. My mom had a pretty intense prayer group, and I know they were all praying for me, and like that possibly kept me protected. But something my whole life has kind of kept me protected. Like driving around 20 years with dope and needles and open containers and smoking coke in the car and just like getting pulled over like 10 times with all that going on and just never getting in trouble. I mean, I'm pretty smart about it actually, but still, I don't know why that is, but they couldn't catch me, but they wanted to kick me out. So they brought me in. It's like 4 months before graduation. They bring me in. There's all the headmaster and all the board members and everyone. And they're like, we know you smoke pot. And I'm like, oh, and they had all my shit, my like shampoo bong, bottle bong, and all my pipes and everything. Like, because there was a place we would go and we had it all stashed there, and they managed to find it all. They had it all, and I'm looking at it like, huh, what? And we know you smoke pot. If you admit it, we're going to suspend you for a week. If you don't admit it, we're kicking you out. And I was like, all right, I smoke pot. And they're like, you're out. And something definitely snapped inside me on that. Because they lied, and like these were people, this was like, to me, this was like the face of society. Like I already didn't like it because of my father, and I already didn't like it, the Grateful Dead, but they weren't that rebellious, they weren't political, but there was counterculture, I already wasn't buying the culture, and I already didn't like what I saw. But when the face of it, in a personal experience, when it asked for my trust or whatever, and then just lied to me, something definitely like snapped. And as far as people in authority, like cops or whatever, I was basically like a sociopath. Like I could just lie with impunity. I could just look them right in the eyes and just lie. And that's kind of how I never got in trouble, because they would pull me over or whatever, and I just fucking lie, because I was like, you're fucking gonna try to entrap me, or whatever, I've been there, and like I don't like you deep down, and I don't trust you, I have no respect for you, and like I don't know. So that kind of sent me off on a different path. And so at this point, I'm kind of looking at Jerry Garcia, and I'm like, this guy does heroin, and I had already known, pretty sure in like 8th grade, 9th grade, I already knew. I was like, you're gonna do heroin one day. Like you are. And so here's the mission. Put it off as long as possible. Right? That was my goal. And And so at this point, I had already realized I wasn't going to meditate my way out of this. I wasn't going to do psychedelics and get out of this. I was just going to skate through life and have as much fun as possible. And that was a decision I made. Actually, I remember being like 6 or 7. I was the worst kid in class. Always, always, always. I made a conscious decision around 5 years old. I said, I don't like life. I'm just going to have as much fucking fun as possible. No one's going to stop me. And I'm just going to skate through and have fun. And it wasn't a great decision, but it was the decision I made. And I could have made worse ones. You know, I could have decided to become angry because I had tons of anger deep down. But I just expressed it a different way. And believe it or not, the whole experience of doing a lot of psychedelics with Jerry Garcia, it melted my heart. Like, the guy was full of love, and he loved us, and we loved him. And it was just like David Crosby said, when the Grateful Dead played, a huge love monster would come out of the amps and swallow the people. And that was Garcia's, like, heart. He really did love us, and we really loved him, and he was a really deep, special guy. And he melted that away from me. I would cry and cry and cry at shows. It's just total therapy. You know, didn't fix me, but definitely helped me a lot. Like, anyhow. So that's part 1. Part 2 is when I go to college and start drinking and doing coke and stuff like that. All right, well, welcome to my channel, and I'm going to interview people, and we're going to deep dive into addiction and recovery. Okay, peace.